James,
Raf.
I had some feedback. I don't have it written down,
Okay.
but basically someone said that they'd gone back recently and listened to prior episodes from the beginning where we talked about AI. Listener alert here. I'm about to give us an absolutely huge rap. I'm about to be so self-indulgent here.
Yeah, round dub.
And basically they congratulated me on us being so right about
All manner of topics.
about all manner of things, but in particular, AI. This is post the kind of Apple WWDC, and was like, oh, you guys have said for ages. Like, I went back and listened, and the whole time you've said that Apple own the distribution, so at the end of the day, everyone's going to be subservient to them, and they have the power in this situation. You can't see it not happening. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, we said that, which we did, to be fair. But point being, it was someone who is like, they weren't trying to suck me off. However, it was.
But they did inadvertently.
But we received one of the biggest down round dubs I've ever received.
We love getting. Normally, we're the ones declaring down round dub. In fact, I would say almost exclusively
Until now.
It's us saying that we were right. And because there's no one else on the podcast, no one has any right of reply.
No.
To insist that we actually wasn't a dub. So to hear it from
to have a dub bestowed upon us
from an exogenous source, as they would say, it's great. So I'm calling it. It's a down around dub, folks. But we're talking about some more AI today.
Yeah. Yes.
There's been, we got to check in with this stuff time and time again.
Yeah.
Because it's the only game in town right now. Let's be honest. Everyone is hyper focused on AI and what's.
No, but there literally is nothing. Software stocks are down for the year. You wouldn't know it, but they are.
Yeah.
Like, software is down, hardware up, data center up.
Yeah. No, so look, in this episode, we're going to tie together a few disparate threads about AI because...
Disparate. I like it.
Yeah. There's a few interesting things going on. The thing that might unify it and give a bit of coherence and structure to what we're going to talk about is, let's bring it back to Nvidia. Because Nvidia is, as we've talked about time and time again, essentially like the bellwether. It's the ETF for the AI industry.
Yeah. You want to invest in AI, you invest in Nvidia.
So as you might have seen the other week, Nvidia became briefly the most valuable company on earth.
Yeah.
Not bad for the big titty elf company, as we keep repeatedly insisting. And they are currently racing with Apple and Microsoft as to who will be the first company to cross the $4 trillion market cap.
Real sicko stuff.
Which is absurd, right?
I mean, was the $1 trillion barrier, it must have been just before we started down around. Like, it wasn't that long ago.
No.
That Apple hit $1 trillion.
No, and it was a huge song and dance.
And then neck minute.
And, Apple and Microsoft have been neck and neck on this stuff, and Nvidia shot ahead of them. Again, it is insane, whether you think the AI stuff is a bubble or not, that happened.
Yeah, that Nvidia.
That I quite like, honestly, unless you're a gamer, is not a company anyone was thinking about until 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're...
And even then, if you'd probably asked a gamer like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, what's going to be the most important company, and guess what? They're going to make a computer part. I know Nvidia have been ahead for some time. AMD for sure.
Yeah. No, it's
they're just better bang for your buck.
But obviously, the reason they are surging is because they're selling so much of their hardware, because their chips power the AI and LLM moment, inference and machine learning, what have you. It almost exclusively runs at the top level on NVIDIA chips. So as a result, investors pile into it because it's so hard to make head or tails about what's going on in AI, but you know that no matter what happens, if AI goes up, NVIDIA benefits.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a story in The Information this weekend.
Jensen's worried.
Jensen Huang, the leather-jacketed icon.
Yeah, recently seen signing the chest of a woman
Yes, exactly.
before a conference. If this isn't the top, folks.
Well, people said it was the top because it's not appropriate for a computer guy to be doing that. He just said that, not even the musicians aren't even doing that shit anymore.
No.
Maybe that's why he can do it, because it's a bit
anachronistic.
It's a bit anachronistic. It's a bit passe, so they can pick up some of the scraps there. Anyway, but the story basically came out saying that, he's on top of the world, but he's worried. And the reason that he's worried, Jensen Huang, is because he thinks, as people that are close to him have heard from him, that, the hype train is going to shoot past its station. The demand is going to fall off for reasons ranging from what we've talked about a little bit in the past, which is the idea that all this generative AI stuff is all well and good, but companies are finding it very hard to actually show the balance sheet justifications for this spend.
Yeah, does it make money?
Does it actually make money?
Yeah, there's in particular because their number one customers are like the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts of the world, who basically are on selling it. No, they're buying all these GPUs so that they can rent it out to other companies for their cloud infrastructure. And right now, yes, every single company in the world, every CEO and GM or whatever, all the way down, is saying, what are we doing in AI? And so everyone in the digital department is like hiring cloud compute to like do some AI stuff. And as soon as like the AWS bill comes in a couple of years, like over, this year and the next, and they show that, we've made it much better to search internal documents, then, and they look at the P&L, there is the risk that a lot of these people who currently have this demand for this compute of Nvidia GPUs might fall off a cliff.
Yep.
If businesses are unable to make significant amounts of money.
Yep.
In particular, if training costs are certainly more expensive than the ongoing inference costs, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, but point being, if companies can't make money out of it, if they stop paying the cloud providers, then the cloud providers, being like the Microsofts and the AWSs, don't need more graphics cards.
Yeah.
Simple.
Because it comes down to the dynamic that we've talked about a bit, which is the idea that AI is phenomenally expensive. It's very processor intensive. It costs a lot of money if there's giant inference operations through AWS or Azure or whatever. And in conjunction with the fact where it's obviously really cool tech, really impressive, and we've never seen anything quite like it, but does that translate into like material business outcomes, you could say, where it's like, we can actually point at our AI spend and say that is translating into X amount of revenue.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've said this before publicly. I think there is definitely efficiencies. Like people writing it off as like, there's nothing here. It's just like stupid poems or whatever. Come on. But things like, in particular, customer service seems to be a big one. It does seem to make customer service more efficient.
Yep.
Look at being able to use a RAG model, look up on your company's data and responses and facts and suggest an answer to your customer service representative who sees if it's appropriate or not and posts it. Seems like that makes the job quicker, which makes it more efficient. They can serve more customers. There's little things like this on the margins where it's like, that could actually have a meaningful impact on the bottom line. But no, we're not talking about like the Commonwealth Bank has sacked 90% of their workforce.
No, that's certainly not happened. So a lot, the doomsaying in that regard hasn't come to pass. But then there's, putting aside that, Jensen is also concerned that there's more practical concerns, which is like the customers don't even have enough data center space to install these chips. Like there's like a physical limit to how many data centers they can build and chips they can furnish. So even if this stuff does find like its profitable use case pretty quickly, we might run into a wall anyway because, Meta only has so much real estate, so many data centers that they can whip up out of nothing to build it, and we're going to run into that wall instead. But the reason I use this as kind of like the framing device is that, we've been accelerating into this like AI moment. As you said, a lot of software stocks are down, but a lot of the hardware stocks are up, which is just a reflection of the way that AI has kind of manifested itself in the markets. But keep that in mind while you're thinking about some of the other weird stuff that's kind of going on in this space. So at the top of the episode, we mentioned Apple because we talked about the Apple Intelligence stuff the other week, that Apple are striking more and more deals with more and more AI providers.
And we probably should clarify, because I assumed that Apple would be paying OpenAI like on some kind of API.
That's right. We're trying to figure out
like who pays who.
Who pays who?
And no one pays anyone because, well, I guess technically, maybe this is how the accountants view it, because this is how it was phrased, is Apple are paying, quote unquote, OpenAI to use their platform, but OpenAI are paying Apple for advertising and distribution, which nets out to zero.
Yeah, no one is getting paid cash in this arrangement.
No, but like they keep framing it as like, oh yeah, Apple's paying OpenAI, but in promotion, which is like, so no one's been paid here.
Yeah. So we've we've talked a bit about, we've gone on about Apple were late to the AI game, and we had our episode a couple of weeks ago talking about the WWDC stuff. And I think we were both kind of pleasantly surprised to a certain extent with what Apple were doing, in the sense where it was like, keeping in mind that we haven't actually seen any of this stuff in operation, so who knows if it's going to work as well as they were suggesting. And there was a lot of cringe stuff in their presentation. Namely,
actually, full aside, and I didn't harp on about this enough, but the presentations are actually pissing me off now. Like these full video presentations, it was so much better when it was live. It is cringe. Like the way they talk, we've just become accustomed to this like full American annoying cringe, like soppy way of enthusiastically talking at me. Like just flagging, I hate it.
Yep, noted. I'll back that motion. But as I said, there was some cringe stuff in there, like all the image generation shit and whatever. But it sounded like they've strategically approached this in a particular way, which I think is being borne out by this reporting now. So it was reported this week that Apple are now striking deals with Meta to load it. 'Cause, reminder, they announced a partnership with OpenAI to basically supply GPT-4 to iPhone users.
Yeah, basically there's like 3 tiers almost. You ask Siri or your phone a question. If it's very simple and integrated, it just happens on the phone itself. If it's a little bit more complex, it goes off to Apple's own servers, which is
image generation stuff and whatever. Yep.
Which is quite interesting through private cloud, blah, blah, blah. If the on-device thing determines like, actually, this is too complicated for that, then we ask the user, hey, in order to answer this, I want to use ChatGPT. Is that cool?
It's basically anything that involves like
world knowledge.
World knowledge, what they call. Yeah, because Apple has trained their own LLMs, which are designed for like actions and be able to comprehend the things that you say to Siri and all that sort of stuff. That doesn't need to know like who was the 4th US president.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're reframing an email or whatever and making it more friendly, it doesn't need to know shit.
Yeah, totally.
But then, yeah.
But ChatGPT and GPT needs to know everything.
If you rank the top 10 NFL quarterbacks of all time.
Yeah, it needs to have a generalist understanding of that sort of thing, which basically just means, it's been trained on a much vaster data set, or, tailored to a much vaster data set. But Apple did announce during its presentation, we started with OpenAI, who are the most high profile and, best in class. But we're going to expand to other providers. And at the time, the reporting was talking about Google and Google Gemini. But now the reporting has come out, they're talking to Meta, who, let's be honest, Meta are Apple's main sort of enemies.
Yeah, which I think we've spoken about in the past. It probably shouldn't be the case because they have this symbiotic relationship and always have, where like Facebook relied on the iPhone in order to like be what it is, but also like Apple relied on Meta
and Facebook,
to grow, but B, like for advertising to drive app downloads from the App Store. But yes, anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yes, the frenemies, well, not frenemies, they've always just been enemies, basically.
Yeah, no, they've been enemies for a while, and like it's fair to say that Meta and Facebook have sort of replaced Google, who replaced Microsoft as like the big rival or big enemy of Apple. But the reporting is that Apple are striking a deal to have Meta's AI Llama as an option on the iPhone or in the new iOS, alongside Gemini, alongside Perplexity, alongside Anthropic. All these stories have come out, and you kind of feel like they've been seeded by Apple.
Yeah.
To at least to a certain extent. And as these stories have come out, I'm like, okay, it's very evident what their strategy is here.
Yeah.
They know that they're not going to, despite their limitless resources,
They're not going to have the best LLM.
they're not going to be able to be, because they don't have the focus, I guess, to produce something that's like GPT-4 or like Claude 3.5 or, whatever these top
Yeah, or at least not now. Not for a while.
Not for a while, because they were caught in the back foot. And maybe they never want to be there.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't ever want to do that. It seems that their AI unit thinks that stuff is sort of a distraction from their core business. So it seems like the Apple strategy is very mercenary. This idea of like, all right,
Commodify your compliments.
we're going to, yeah, exactly. The thing that made us win the last generation of hardware, software, whatever, is that we just dominated with a platform. Our platform play was so strong, and it feels like they're just doing it again. They're like, all right, we're just going to make strike deals with everybody. You guys can fight amongst yourselves about who has the best fucking model.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a sec, about what's happening in that world.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you come crawling to us.
Yeah, because you have to have distribution to our base. You have to the billion people who use iPhones.
I saw it quoted in Bloomberg that it's expected that ChatGPT or GPT use will double because of the iPhone. I mean, that's a pretty striking, and considering the fact there must be a fairly substantial like Mac and iPhone use of GPT now because those are the apps they prioritize.
Yeah, yeah.
So for it to double again, expected, Apple are automatically like giving OpenAI the branch of like, okay, well now more than half your user base is us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And presumably, and you'd think that, so it'll be like for Omni or whatever for free, but maybe you'll get, much like with like a limited number, like maybe you'll get kind of whatever it is, like 50 queries a month. And if you hit that, it'll suggest that you update. Apple may well take 30%, probably will take 30% of that subscription.
Well, they're already taking 30% of a lot of ChatGPT subscriptions.
Yeah, right. And so like that's a win for them. But OpenAI can be like, well, I guess, that they can look at their bottom line and be like, yeah, we will get a lot of subscriptions out of that. But at the end of the day, and same is true of Gemini, same is true of all of them, Anthropic, etc. At the end of the day, Apple is just owning you. And maybe I am at heart, I'm a soft romantic, but the metaphor of Sam Altman sitting there at WWDC, his business being mentioned, but him sitting in the crowd like everyone else. Come on, man.
It is pretty funny because I guarantee you they're gonna strike all these deals. They're gonna make it so people can select what LLM they want to use. Keeping in mind, again, vast majority of iPhone users are gonna see like a list of and be like, "What the fuck is that? Who is Claude?
Llama? I don't want llamas on my phone.
I'm just backing out of that menu." Like
they're calling their grandson.
Yeah. But they'll have all that, and then Apple will, I guarantee you, then start being like, all right, now you are all going to fight over who the default is.
Yeah.
And how much money can you throw at us, or what other concessions are you going to make?
Yeah. And by the way, all of this means is we will handle the stuff that we know we can handle, these like RAG models and stuff that's never going to give you wrong information. All of this other stuff, the LLMs that hallucinate, we'll handle all of the actual useful stuff that is never really going to be wrong.
Yeah. Just like stuff that, being able to say, open the blinds of my smart home, or like make this message I've sent to my mother-in-law a little bit less harsh sounding.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what time is the babysitter coming over? Reword this message so it's a bit more professional. And you guys handle the, like, okay, there are 3 doors. One of them is nuclear annihilation. The other one is saying a homophobic slur. And the third one is a racial slur. Like, which one do you choose?
Yep.
And everyone just blowing up.
Yeah, it's like, OpenAI, you can deal with, like, people getting mad at you for whatever answer that gives you.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll handle, the easy stuff.
that people actually want to know and makes their life more useful.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, and look, it's all summed up to me, at least the Apple perspective. And again, who knows how well this stuff will work, but right now it does seem like Apple have really done the thing that we predicted 2 years ago. I want to highlight this. The interview that Tim Cook did with the Wall Street Journal, I believe, when they asked him about like Apple Intelligence, like going with that name, just kind of redefining AI. And Tim Cook, just with a straight face, was like, we weren't really thinking about AI and artificial intelligence when we came up with that. It just made sense to us that Apple devices, this is an intelligence on the devices. And that I didn't really cross my mind, the whole AI thing.
Sure.
Like, that is insane. Like, imagine, like, people in, I guess, his position can just say things like that. Like a bald-faced lie. Like, you can just say, I wasn't really... Didn't really cross my mind, AI, when we came up with Apple Intelligence. Wasn't even really thinking about it. You can just say that to someone's face. The most absurd thing.
The number one topic that investors have been bashing down your door about for 18 months is like, I just didn't cross my mind.
Didn't really cross my mind when we came up with Apple Intelligence.
Yeah.
Crazy. Like, actually crazy thing. If anyone else were to say that, but you can just do that when you have that much power, I guess. You can just lie to the world's face.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, yeah, that guy's got some swag.
That kind of tracks. Yeah. No,
I wasn't considering AI.
Because the other thing that's going on to seamlessly branch into the next topic is that, as many have kind of pointed out, you know, GPT-4 came out like 18 months ago now, or a bit over a year. I remember we did an episode about it, but I can't remember exactly when it was. GPT-4 established kind of like the high watermark of what these LLMs and AIs can do. And they still haven't released the next one, GPT-5.
GPT-5, which I'm telling you, folks, it's going to be big.
Yeah.
I even saw a post today, it's like it outperforms a PhD.
Well, that's it. That was what Mira Murati, who's the CTO of OpenAI, said in an interview. She was like, well, again, this all just comes back to how bullshit all the public marketing discourse around this stuff is. She was like, GPT-3 was kind of like a toddler. GPT-4 had the intelligence of a high schooler. And GPT-5 will come out in, maybe 18 months, which I think is what she actually said, will be the intelligence of a PhD. You're like, that doesn't make any fucking sense.
No.
Like, GPT-4 is not the intelligence of a high schooler. No. What does that even mean?
No. It fails at basic logic.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you say, like, what does that mean? Like, what? It's moody and it's experimenting with weed? It's worried about, like,
that's exactly
the opposite sex?
Yeah. And as an aside, the Mira Murati has popped up in the news as a public face for OpenAI a lot. I'm not sure exactly why, apart from the fact that maybe it's like she's a woman. People are not as negatively polarized against her as they are Sam Altman at the moment. So she's popped up in a lot of like news interviews, and I'm sorry to say it, but she really coming across like a dill of late.
Yeah, well, because reminder, she's the one when they were like, "Do you train like the your video models on YouTube, Sora on YouTube?" And she was like, "I don't know."
It was like obviously the answer is yes. Yeah. And she did like a weird face. She was like, "Mm." And she also, there was an interview the other day where someone was asking her, like, people in creative industries obviously really worried about a lot of the stuff that OpenAI is doing. Is this going to disrupt the creative field? Like really basic questions that, you would expect. And the answer that she came back with was, yes, it's quite possible that OpenAI products are going to disrupt creative fields, but if they get disrupted, maybe they shouldn't have been jobs in the first place. And it's like, have a tiny bit of like diplomatic tact.
Yeah. Like, this is the one thing we're all afraid of, like, and the whole world feels uneasy about, and it's just like, you should never have gotten a cent.
Not only do I think that painting sucks now, but there should never have been painting. Anyway, but
Van Gogh, he lived like a pauper, and so should all of you. He still pumped out some good ones. Well, it was never a real job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the funny thing that we've kind of run into now is because, for whatever reason, and there's people are talking about, maybe GPT-5 or like these successor models aren't actually that crash hot. Like there's not a quantum leap between it and GPT-4 or whatever. So what you're seeing is like all these companies, and by all these companies, I mean primarily OpenAI and Anthropic, are sort of like just sequentially releasing little versions which are slightly better than the last one on key metrics. At the moment, at the time of recording, the latest Claude, which is like Claude 3.5, Claude Sonnet 3.5, is considered like the gold standard.
Yeah.
And presumably OpenAI is going to release something slightly better
4.5, or something.
in like a few weeks or whatever.
But yeah, if this is the future, it makes sense. This is why Apple doesn't want it. They never have wanted to do this. Oh, our processor is, this many.
Well, yeah, it is a good point. Like Apple only they'd like to release things in just like yearly updates. They don't do a huge number of like interstitial updates where you kind of release something and then 2 weeks later you release a slight improvement. So you can see them not wanting to get sucked into that arms race. But the other side of the OpenAI stuff is that Ilya Sutskever, who was instrumental in the
coup, failed coup, the putsch.
Yep. Which failed to take out Sam Altman. And then he just kept working there for like 6 months.
Yeah, and there was like Altman being like, I still love you, bro. I will always love this man.
That guy was eating lunch alone in the OpenAI kitchen, I think.
Well, he seems like the vibe with Ilya was he was a true believer in the original OpenAI mission, and now he's just solidifying those credentials, I would say.
So
he's making a safe superintelligence.
Eventually, he started safe superintelligence.
He's bailed.
He bailed, a couple months ago, but now he's started up his new startup, which is called Safe Superintelligence.
Yeah, and he just raised 250 M's.
Yeah, and presumably he's going to be
pretty good at making AI,
capable of doing that. But again, it's kind of like this is actually an interesting angle that I've read a lot about recently, and this is kind of like intriguing, which is that a lot of these AI companies are sort of like splitting into being sort of national champions of a given country and starting to get kind of like spooked up. Because it was announced the other day that OpenAI added like a former head of the NSA to their board, which caused everyone to be like, oh, here we go. But also, in Europe, Mistral has been brought aside as like a national champion for France and the EU.
Yeah.
In Canada, it's Cohere. People are talking about, because Safe Superintelligence has a headquarters in Palo Alto, but also in Tel Aviv. And there's some involvement with like the Israeli government. So
Qatar's got their own one.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's this idea that countries are sort of like finding companies that have built like really capable foundation models and being like, okay, this is not just a matter of like AI companies fighting. We actually kind of need it for some indeterminate national security thing.
Yeah.
Which leaves Australia. Actually, it was announced that an Australian AI company does have a foundation model, Leonardo. I don't know if you saw that the other day.
I did not see this.
Leonardo, but it's an image generation one.
Well, hence the name Leonardo.
Leonardo AI. Yeah.
Who is the most famous painter of all time? Let's go with that.
Yeah. But I think it's an interesting dimension, at least one that kicks the hype along a little bit. National champions, upholding whatever.
Well, because everyone's all afraid of China. I mean, I wonder, the national security thing, and permit me to think aloud right now.
I would never stop you.
I mean, how much of this, though, is basically hype from the companies themselves, where it's like, this is a national security issue. Like, we have to have our own LLM because China and AI, because China's developing their own and the battlefield of the future, and it fits in with our like military tech thing from the other week, where it's like, because the Chinese are doing this, the Chinese, they're developing their own AI, so our AI has to be better because question mark, military/economy, like this.
It's impossible to like separate the facts from the hype on a lot of this stuff. I like the facts from like the marketing, and it all comes back to the original sort of thing, which is kind of, you may have noticed that like the AI Duma stuff, it hasn't entirely gone away, of course, because Ilya Sutskever, as we said, Safe Superintelligence.
Yeah,
he started this business because he thinks, or this research organization or whatever he wants to call it, because he thinks that OpenAI wasn't doing things safely.
A safe superintelligence, like the Buddha or something. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't know. If you really are smelling your own farts on this sort of stuff, basically, I don't really get his sort of thing where he's like, okay, these guys are developing this like alien and ultra intelligence that's far smarter than a human and far more capable. But we're doing that, but just like in a safe way.
And so what, the AIs are going to fight one day? Is that the idea?
That could be cool.
You got like the good and the neutral AI just like fighting.
I guess my point is
and then the Chinese AI.
Yeah, the Chinese comes in. Yeah. No, but it's like, I feel like even regardless of whether you're on the safety or the anti-safety side of it, it's just like...
Sorry, let's be clear. Where do you fall down, mate?
Straight down the middle, as on all subjects.
Likewise.
No, I'm removing myself from the entire conversation by being like, why are we talking about building a... Can't you be happy with what you've got? Do we need an alien super intelligence living amongst us on our Azure and AWS servers? What happened to be using your own noggin to figure stuff out?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But no, yes, it does beg the question, what's everyone talking? What are they going? What are you going on about?
What the hell are you going on about? That's what all this stuff is. This is what I say about it. What the fuck are you talking about?
Look, it is what it is. Seems like Sonnet's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm again very capable for coding that people have found. I mean, yeah.
Still the slickest graphic design. Anthropic, got to hand it to him.
They do have the nicest.
The brand language. Is hot.
Serif fonts.
Yeah, we got serif on the internet, folks. It's back.
Yep, and I must say, if their goal was, let's make this feel organic and not like it's a machine. It worked on me.
Oh, absolutely.
I was like, oh, wow, these guys care about art and beauty and aesthetics.
Yeah. No need for those little widgets on the end of those letters.
Ooh.
Yet there they are.
What?
And, technically harder to read on a backlit screen. Easier on paper, but they still went for it. Reminds me of reading a book. Flipping the pages. But actually, I'm asking for some sequel bullshit.
Yeah. You can see there's very much a constant oscillation between it's over, we're so back among software developers when they fuck around with these new LLMs about how capable they are at doing basic programming tasks, or more complex programming tasks. And there is a lot of hype around this Claude one about being particularly good. I haven't been using it for coding stuff at all.
Yeah.
But you say that it's quite good at your SQL queries.
It absolutely, as a data scientist, it is it's better than any of the previous ones insofar as it just gets it right straight away, which the other ones fail to do. It's also got a cool thing where it's got a inbuilt compiler, which I haven't used because I'm not trying to build little apps, but people are saying that the fact that you can kind of run the code that it gives you and see if it compiles properly and whatnot, and then reflect on that. That does seem pretty cool. A nice handy thing. It does that's the thing with AI as well. It is seeming, I know that you hear complaints about oh yeah, AI spits out all this code and then you have to go back and debug it and it's all fucked and it's just wasting time and blah, blah, blah. But I'm sure there are developers using it in the way that it should be used as just a way for them to write a bit more quickly and actually understand it and read the code that's coming out as opposed to just copy pasting. It's making devs more efficient. Some of you don't like to admit it. I know there's a lot of you out there, a lot of you programmers listening right now, but you know that come on, it's making it quicker. It's making you more efficient. Yes, no one wants to see job cuts. I don't want to see it. You don't want to see it.
Nope.
I don't want to see this podcast lose 20% of a host, because of AI. But
which of us do you think would be easier to replace with AI?
Well, it depends. So, interestingly, this is what's intriguing. You obviously bring a lot more facts.
Je ne sais quoi.
Well, I would say the opposite. You bring...
I'm a vibe sucker, but...
No, well, you're obviously essential, whereas I don't bring a lot of real hard information. It's more just kind of shoot from the hip, wrong stuff. So actually, maybe I too could be... we could both be replaced by AI. If you want to hear... I'm hallucinating pretty much the whole time.
Yeah. So there was someone posted a thing recently. Oh, when I say someone, I mean the company Google.
Alphabet.
One of the 5 largest companies on Earth. Actually, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're well. third or fourth.
Yeah.
I could Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Facebook.
Yeah.
Amazon, before Facebook.
And is Aramco in there?
Aramco are down about 7th now.
Yeah, because there was a very funny post the other day where it was like, it had the top 5 companies by revenue or whatever. It had 5 companies. No, it was like Nvidia, Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Amazon, and then Saudi Aramco, or some combination of those. Maybe Google was in there. And it was like only one of these companies was started in the city of San Francisco, and it was Saudi Aramco.
Aramco, yeah.
Because it started as like the, I can't remember the name of the company, but it was because obviously it was like American interests. But yeah, it was formed in the city of San Francisco. Very cool.
For the record, I'm pretty sure Amazon has the highest revenue. Out of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But margins low.
And also, I think Walmart has more than any of them if you if you do it as revenue. But Google released one of their research platforms, and they have like a website set up for it, where like you feed an academic PDF into it, and it turns it into a podcast, and talks through the ideas of the paper. And that's basically what we do.
Absolutely.
Except not.
So we don't read the PDF.
We don't read PDFs. It's more kind of like half remembered TechCrunch articles.
Yeah, and posts on Hacker News.
Yeah, posts on Hacker News and like tweets that we vaguely remember saying.
Yeah, pretty much. And
but
conversations we've had with each other. It's like somebody told me.
But the thing, the connective tissue of all that is this like miasmic kind of sense of taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can't simulate that.
Yeah, as Steve Jobs said.
No dang robot can make the connections that you and I make. We'll catch you next week.
If you're listening to this, did you know there's another world out there where you get a second episode of Down Round a week?
Yep, it's called Down Round Premium.
That's right, and there's no interruptions.
No interruptions, no ads, 2 episodes a week, including the free one you're getting right now, plus another one.
Yep, $7 a month, not a week, a month, downround.net. Downround.net, instant access to the whole back catalogue as well. You've got so much to catch up on.
There's so much. Get around it.